But thank you all. My name is Christopher Lucan Seidel. I'm the College Depot Assistant Director. And College Depot, for those who don't know, is a free full-service college access center. We're here to help you with anything and everything that has to do with anything and everything related to college planning, financial aid, scholarships, and admissions. So we'll kind of share a little bit more at the end, but we're going to cover a lot of content right now. If it is a lot, we are recording this session, so you will be able to review it. You'll be able to review it, and you can always reach out to us and schedule a one-on-one appointment with one of our advisors. And of course, it will be virtual, so we can help you with some of the details and some of the things that Diana and Bianca are going to cover today. So I will go ahead and transition this over to Diana Mateer, who is our financial aid manager here at College Depot, as well as Bianca Ramirez, who is an AmeriCorps College Access Specialist. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. If you were on the last presentation a few minutes ago, welcome back. And we're going to shift gears a little bit right now and talk about your plans to go to college. For those of you on the line who are students, and for those of you who are family members or parents, I know you have one big question. How do I afford it? So hopefully today, in the time Bianca and I spend with you, you will have an opportunity to get answers to those questions. Know that financial aid is about 50 to 60% of what we do at College Depot in terms of explaining it, helping you apply for it, understand how financial aid works at colleges. So we recommend to all of you that you use our services as the school year continues. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to make college affordable. Basically, Bianca and I are going to cover 3 different areas. I'm going to talk about federal student aid, which has been my specialty for the last 40 years, 5 of them spent with College Depot. We're going to talk about institutional aid, those all-important dollars that come directly from the college that we all hope that we will receive. And finally, external scholarships, which everyone wants, but we will help you to navigate a little more easily. And then I wanted to spend just a moment talking about other private aid options, and I really do want to spend only a moment talking about this. What if none of the other 3 works for you? What if you can't get any federal aid? Highly unlikely, but you can't get any institutional aid or any scholarships. We do have some students whose families have savings for college, take out a home equity loan, put the tuition on a credit card. I will not spend any more time talking about those options because those are what I consider not your first line of offense. You also might be looking at private educational bank loans, and we will talk about student loans a little bit today and about how the federal loan programs are far more your first option than private educational loans are. So let's launch into a discussion, get started on federal student aid. Everybody hears a lot about federal aid and really thinks, well, there are billions of dollars out there. What are they in? They're basically in one of 3 categories. The first one is grants, and grants are the ones everyone wants because you don't have to pay back grants. They are free money that if you meet the continuing criteria to get them, you will continue to receive them through the end of school. Loans, and you will all be shutting up your ears right now, I'm sure, because no one wants to talk about loans, but loans are a very important part of the college financing option you may be given. So it's good to have at least an idea that they are out there if you need to use them. Taking out student loans is a better alternative than not going to college at all. Trust me, I know, because I had to take out student loans for myself because my family simply did not qualify for enough grant money and they just couldn't swing it otherwise. So I am where I am today, happily semi-retired and working on helping you with financial aid simply because I chose to take out some amount of loans. Finally, work study. Work study is exactly what the name implies. You find a job on campus or arranged by the campus and an off-campus entity like the YMCA. The campus arranges for your employment. You get a job through the normal interview process. You get hired for a period of hours each week that fit into your school schedule, and the federal government helps the college to give you a paycheck. So these are the primary three types of federal aid. There are subsets of aid underneath these, but you're either going to receive through the federal aid process a grant, a loan, or a work-study offer, or all three in many cases. So let's talk for a moment about who's eligible to even apply for federal aid, because there's no use to apply if you're not eligible, but the eligibility criteria are really pretty simple. Except for the first one, be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. That's simple for some people, but for DACA students, unfortunately, federal aid is not an option at this point. So the student, not the parents, but the student must be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. You must have a high school diploma or GED. So for those of you who are planning on jumping on ahead to go to school from the 10th grade, you cannot do that. You are required to finish high school equivalency before you start college and get federal aid. You have to have a valid Social Security number. I've run into a couple of U.S. citizens who have citizenship status but have not applied for an SSN. So in that rare case, be sure that you do. Again, a valid SSN is a precursor to applying for aid, but DACA students who have a valid SSN are still not eligible to apply. You must attend an eligible degree or certificate program at an eligible school. And that's pretty much everything you can think of. There are cosmetology programs, dog grooming programs, teaching programs, science programs, engineering programs at all sorts of degree levels, but you must be attending a school that has been determined eligible by the federal government in a program that has been determined eligible. About the only programs that don't qualify are either bartending schools or casino dealing. And that's not because the federal government doesn't like those professions. It's simply because you learn them really quickly. And you generally can't get federal aid for a less than 6-month program. If you are a male, you must register for selective service if you are 18 years of age or when you become 18. And there's a question on the financial aid application that allows them to register you automatically. So you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own computer or your home to get registered. This only applies to males ages 18 to 26. If you are a female, you can still serve in the armed services, but you are not required to register for the roles of the armed services. And right now, in this day and age, this question is fairly meaningless. But if you feel like I don't ever want anything to do with the military and you happen to be a male, age 18, you must allow yourself to be registered in order to get federal financial aid. And finally, you have to make satisfactory academic progress while you're in the college or the career school you're attending. What does that mean? You don't have to have a 4.0, but you have to at least have a cumulative 2.0 average in almost every case, meaning that you're at least maintaining a C cumulative average, and you're making satisfactory progress toward your degree or certificate, meaning you don't withdraw from everything you start and you don't fail every course you take. So the criteria are pretty simple to maintain satisfactory progress, but be understanding that the federal government will not continue to give you money if they feel that you are not progressing successfully. So that is the eligibility criteria. I'm going to stop for a moment and ask if anyone has any questions about these. And if you do, please feel free to type them in the chat, and Chris will let me know if there are any coming in. Pretty straightforward, everyone?
Yeah, so far it doesn't look like we have any any questions.
Okay, we can move on then. What you need to know about federal aid is really pretty simple. First of all, the basic application for it is something that you probably have heard time and again, the FAFSA. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and you can find the FAFSA at studentaid.gov. That is the all-purpose student financial aid website from the Department of Education. Studentaid.gov, and notice the little blurb here that says FAFSA is not as hard as you think. It really is not that difficult, but it is an intimidating looking process. So we do offer quite a lot of assistance with it at the College Depot. You have to file the FAFSA every year you're in college. So if you're in college for 4 years or 2 years, you're going to do that many FAFSAs. My daughter attended graduate school, a 3-year graduate program. She completed her FAFSA 7 years in a row. Your FAFSA is available to you in October of the fall October, for the next fall enrollment period. I'm stumbling over that simply because I want to give you an example here. In October 2020, the FAFSA will be available if you plan to enroll in college in fall 2021. So that's speaking to all of you rising seniors who are on this call. You and your family will be completing the FAFSA beginning in October 2020 for your next fall freshman year in college. Do you have to complete it on October 1st when it comes open? No, you do not. There is no prize for being the first to fill out the FAFSA, and government money, if you are eligible for it, is always available to you. But it is better to fill out the FAFSA earlier rather than later, because some schools will use the FAFSA results to distribute their own money, and they will have limited pots of that money and deadlines for application. So be sure that you're trying to complete it sometime before January 1st if you can. And you should be able to, because that FAFSA available in October 2020 is based on your 2019 federal income tax information for the parents and the students. And for almost everyone, even with the later tax deadlines this year, should have your 2019 returns done by October. And again, that is a critical part of filing the FAFSA. If you have not filed your taxes, then I hope you have a good reason on October. Perhaps you filed for an extension and you can explain that. But for most of us, we're going to have some pretty firm data from 2019 in October of 2020. You can't do anything with the FAFSA right now unless you're going to be going to school this coming year. And when I say going to school, going to college or a career school program. What you can do right now prior to October is to create the login information for you and for one of your parents, at least one of them, to complete the FAFSA in October. That's called the FSA ID process. And you don't have to do that today. In fact, there's no percentage in doing it today because you'll probably forget what you did in October. But if you're really a go-getter who wants to get started on the process, you can go into studentaid.gov and create your electronic signature login. That's what the FSA ID is for yourself and for your parents. It's a pretty easy process. We advise you to do it before you start the FAFSA, but I'll be honest with you, often at the depot, we actually have appointments in which we create the login information and do the application at the same time. Any questions about this before I move forward?
So far, no questions.
Okay, please move on. What does a FAFSA mean anyway? You hear about it from teachers, you hear about it from counselors, you're hearing about it from me, you'll hear everyone talk about it, particularly as you start school in the fall, whether that's virtually or on campus. There are some key questions on the FAFSA. I tell you these so you're not scared that it's asking you other questions you can't possibly answer. The first question is, how many people are in your family? I hope you know. Who's living with you or supported by your parents? besides you and them? Are you supporting your grandma, your niece, your nephew, your brother who is attending out of state of college, but he's still in your household because your parents are still supporting him? So your household size is very important. And naturally, the bigger your household, the more financial aid you're likely to get. That doesn't mean you should go out and adopt a few extra children. But see, I don't benefit from the jokes on a virtual. But you want to make sure you count everybody that your family is supporting, because the larger your family, the more money you're going to need for college. It also asks you the number in your family in college, including yourself as a student. It does not automatically include parents. You have to pretty much ask for special disposition of the financial aid office if you are a parent going to school. But on the other hand, if you have two brothers and sisters that are also going to college along with you next year, that means your family needs more money. That means you get more financial aid. So if you have a brother or sister who is trying to decide what to do next year, try to get them to go to college with you at your college or another one, because it will make a positive difference in your financial aid eligibility, and it will make, even more importantly, a positive difference in their lives. You, of course, are going to be asked about that family income. Remember, I mentioned in October of 2020, income, the income of your parent or your parents, the income of the student. If you worked and you're a student, don't automatically think, oh my goodness, my job is going to affect my financial aid eligibility, because the little bit of money you might have received in a part-time job or earned in a part-time job is likely not going to affect you. But your parents' income is the main driver of what kind of financial aid you will receive. And finally, most of the income is the income that you or your parents earn from working. If your parents or you receive government benefits like Social Security, disability benefits through Social Security, Section 8 housing, food stamps, something like that, they are all government benefits. You do not have to report any funds you receive from the government in order to get a government benefit of financial aid. So there are often times where students say, I have nothing to put on the FAFSA. My parents' only source of income is Social Security. In that case, we are dealing with a FAFSA that has pretty much all zeros on it. And then finally, the assets of the parent and the student sometimes do count. They don't always ask this question, but if they do ask this question about assets, it does not include your primary home where you live, and it does not include a small business your parents might own, like they own a small restaurant, the family works there, you have a couple of employees, so you don't have a large business. If it's fewer than 100, you don't have to report it at all. And finally, the good news for all of us old people is that we don't have to report our 401k or retirement savings unless we are drawing down from it and it is considered income. So you will notice that most of the assets you report would be what you have in cash and savings. And if it's like me, you probably have less than you used to. And you don't have to report your primary home, just any rental property you might own. And you don't have to report even your small business worth or your retirement savings. And I see some questions coming in, Chris. Would you mind reading them to me?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have quite a few.
I bet we do, and we have an hour and a half for this session, so we have plenty of time to answer them.
Okay, so Fanny asks, is FAFSA available for graduate programs, or is it only for undergrad programs?
This is a great learning tool. The FAFSA has to be completed even for graduate programs, but the only type of financial aid a graduate student will receive is a loan. However, it's a federal loan, so the FAFSA has to be completed in order to become eligible for it. Therefore, the FAFSA is available to graduate students, but the money that results from the FAFSA is only in the form of student loans.
Fantastic. And it looks like we have one more from Rachel. She says, it's a scenario question. If I have two older brothers in college and a twin brother that will also be going to college the same time as me, will that affect my financial aid?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, just a little bit of context. So my oldest brother got no financial aid, but I wonder if that will change because all the children in the house will be in the college. And then she, correct, my oldest brother's got zero financial aid.
Okay. I'll give the famous financial aid offer answer for this, and that is it depends. It's surely going to make a difference. Whether it will make enough difference to get the best kind of financial aid, which is grants, depends. If your family makes $1 million, even if you have 4 people in college, it's not going to matter. If they make $75,000 and there are 4 people in college, it makes a big difference. And I got excited at this question because, Rachel, your parents just hit the financial aid jackpot. Because you will have 2 older brothers in college and a twin brother going to college with you. That adds up to 4. And that's a lot of people in college. So it's definitely going to make a positive difference for all of you. And the only reason it would be different for you than one of your brothers is if you had a job and they didn't, or vice versa. But your parents' income stays the same for all 4 of you. So the FAFSA is really looking at how to divide that income among 4 students. I hope that answered the question. I had a bark from one of my dogs, so they said they love it.
Yeah, I concur. Yeah, no follow-up questions or additional questions after that.
Okay. And if I didn't fully answer the questions that came in, we'll have time at the end for you to ask me for clarification or Bianca for clarification on her part. Let's talk about what happens when you do this form and you send it in. Does it just go somewhere and then you magically get money? Not quite that simple, but the FAFSA results will be sent to you and to the schools that you put on your FAFSA that you're interested in. How do you decide what those schools are? I always suggest you put more than 1 and less than 30. You can have 10 at a time, and then if you want to put 10 more, you have to do a FAFSA update and add the next 10. And there are students who put 1 school because they know for sure they want to go to Harvard, or 30 schools because they're not sure they want to go to Harvard. But you have to put the schools you're interested in on the FAFSA, and they will only respond to you if you go ahead and apply for admissions there. But what comes back to those schools and to you after you fill out the form? The form is run through a computerized process that generates what's called an expected family contribution, or EFC. And this is the magic number that everybody wants to know what it is. Your EFC can range anywhere from 6 figures, hundreds of thousands, to 0, or vice versa. Notice I went backwards here. If your EFC is 230,000, then it's unlikely you're going to get much or any good financial aid. If your EFC is 0, you're going to qualify for just about everything we're talking about today. So it's the only time in your life where a lower number is a good number, because usually lower means we have less money or we have less of something. But a 0 EFC simply means that your family needs the most help with financial aid for you to go to school. Notice that the FAFSA results are sent only to the schools on the FAFSA. So if you don't put the school on the FAFSA and you later decide you might want to go there, you need to add the school to the FAFSA. In the same token, applying on the FAFSA and putting ASU as a school you're interested in, if you never apply to ASU, then you missed half of your steps. So you have to apply to the college and put it on the FAFSA in order for you to get a financial aid award from that school. The schools are going to use that EFC number to determine the aid amount you're going to get, how much you're going to get, and from what programs you're going to get it. So if they see a 0 EFC, they know that that means you're going to get a $6,345 Pell Grant. You're going to qualify for some other grant money. You definitely qualify for loans, and they're going to give you a work study award as well. If your EFC is $300,000, they are going to give you financial aid in the form of a great big student loan. So I want you to see the difference. The lower the EFC, the more grant money you receive. It's as simple as that. Aid awards are often sent only to admitted or enrolled students. So if you never apply to the school, you're never going to hear anything, because I want to take ASU as an example. ASU has 50,000 students put ASU on their FAFSAs as incoming freshmen, but only 10,000 of those actually enroll. That's still a big number. But ASU then is only dealing with 10,000 rather than 50,000 students, because the others just put that school on there just because. They never really intended to go there. Aid awards are often sent only to those students that are admitted or are enrolled, so don't expect to hear from the others. And then finally, the school has the option to award money to you or to offer you financial aid funds to cover not just their tuition and fees or their books, but you also can be awarded money for room and board, whether you're living on campus, off campus, or with your family. There's still a cost, even if you live with your parents, and other expenses like transportation, personal expenses like laundry, getting a haircut. Those things all are educational expenses while you are in school. So keep in mind that the amount you receive may be even more than you owe for tuition and fees. And finally, a little bit about how colleges deliver aid funds or offer aid funds. Grants are automatic if you're eligible for them. They will say grant, and you don't have to accept or deny them, because why would you want to deny them? They're grant funds. They don't have to be repaid, so you don't have to accept them. They are automatic. Loans, on the other hand, are offered to you. You can accept or decline them in whole or part. So if you're offered a $3,500 loan and you say, I can make it with $1,000, just apply for $1,000. The other $2,500 is always available to you if you need it later on. And then finally, a few words about work study. Work study, if it's offered to you, can be declined if you say, I absolutely don't want to work my freshman year. I don't want to work at all. I want to concentrate on my studies. I don't want to look for a job. But if it's declined, it's very unlikely that the college will replace it with grant money. They'll just tell you, if you don't want to work, you can take a bigger loan if you need it. Those are some very important points. Chris, are there questions surrounding them?
Yeah, there are a couple. The first is a clarification question. So Jane asks, what exactly does expected family contribution mean, as in how is it determined?
The expected family contribution, and that, by the way, is an excellent question. EFC is a complicated discussion. It is determined based on basically three factors: the money that's listed on the FAFSA, income earned from work, assets. There's a portion of those that there is a complex formula that takes a part of those and makes that part of the EFC. The EFC is generally lower the bigger the family size and the number in college as well. So the EFC is the number that is derived from all the information put on the FAFSA. And if you want to know what it really means, it is the theoretical amount of money your family is expected to contribute toward the student's education. I'll say that again. Theoretical amount of money your family is expected to contribute toward your child's education or the student's education. So if your EFC is 0, you're expected to contribute nada. If your EFC is 300,000, then you probably don't need any financial aid. At least they don't think so. I hope that answered the question. Do you have to take that EFC and translate it into money to the college? Let's say your EFC, let's go with a reasonable amount. Your EFC is $7,500. Does that mean you have to write a check for $7,500 to the college? No. It means that you have to find some aid besides a grant to pay for the college, because usually grants top off at about a 5,500 EFC. And that's not to discourage any of you from applying, because you don't know what it's going to be. But don't be disappointed if it's a few thousand. That does not mean you have to go write a check out of your savings account for that amount. Chris, was there a follow-up to that question?
No, that was, looks like no, but we do have a couple more questions that are related. So will we be told, sorry, Nicole is asking, will we be told the EFC number or just the school?
Oh, you will be told it too. In fact, if you sit down with College Depot, I'll give you a scenario. We help you fill out your FAFSA. We don't fill it out for you, nor do we tell you how to fill it out, except how to do it accurately. That's very important to remember. We are stewards of the federal government, but you will see immediately when you hit the submit button what your EFC is, and we can then have a conversation with you about what that means. Your school will also see it and award aid funds accordingly.
Okay, and we have two more questions. One from Shanti that asks, how many times can we change the FAFSA? Our income is different than last year due to furloughs during these uncertain times.
Oh, great question. The FAFSA is going to ask you to report a certain year's income. You cannot change that just because this year is worse than last year. You have to fill out exactly what the FAFSA asks for, but the federal government and colleges and universities are well aware that we are in very trying times. So if the 2019 income, for instance, were not representative of your family's current situation, you could talk with your financial aid office or offices of the schools you're interested in and appeal that FAFSA by saying, we're making a lot less in 2020 than 2019, and the school has the right and the ability to take that into account and change the FAFSA for you. You cannot do it yourself, but they could make that judgment for you. And they have been told by the federal government to please take family circumstances into account. So don't feel like, wow, we made a windfall in 2019, we make nothing now. We can't do anything about it. Just fill out the FAFSA and then start talking to your financial aid offices to let them know to the best of your ability how your 2020 income is going to be different. As far as the first part of the question, how often can you change the FAFSA? Let's say you need to add a school, or you made a silly mistake and forgot your grandmother is in your household, or your brother was in college too, and you need to make a correction. I have seen, the most corrections I've ever seen to a FAFSA were 99. That person was really confused. We'll try to keep you below 99 at College Depot, and you can make as many corrections as you or the school tells you to make. That's really the bottom line.
Okay, and finally, Heinrich is asking, how would you qualify for FAFSA if you are not a US citizen, but have done 4 years of high school in the United States?
If you are not a US citizen or a permanent resident, the FAFSA is not going to help you a lot. If you're a DACA student or otherwise don't have permanent resident status in the US, federal financial aid is unavailable to you. But there are lots of scholarship programs out there that Bianca will be talking about and that we can set you up with at the College Depot to talk about things other than FAFSA aid, which is the federal grants, federal loans, and federal work study. And there are a lot of out-of-state colleges in particular that are very, very kind to students who are here temporarily or who are not documented in the system as permanent residents or U.S. citizens. Sometimes scholarship organizations will ask you to complete the FAFSA, even though you're not eligible for federal aid, but we'll work with you on that. Do not consider the FAFSA as your first thing to go to, however, if you're in that circumstance.
Thank you, Diana. That answers all the questions.
Okay, let's move on then. I love you guys. You got lots of questions. What happens after the FAFSA? You turn it in, and then it's possible the college is going to ask you for more information when they get the results. Some students are selected for a random process of the federal government called verification. And if you are selected for verification, you're not alone. We'll help you at the depot to get through it. But that simply means that you have to report the financial information that you put on the FAFSA. So you have to turn in a copy of your tax return or get the IRS to match up things for you. Just because, not because they think you lied, but because they selected you randomly and they want to be sure the information you presented was accurate. Notice I said accurate, not honest, because I truly believe we're all trying to be honest in this process. They will also ask you to certify your family size. And usually that's just a statement on a form where you list how many people are in your family, what are their ages, and if they're going to college, what college they're going to. That's all verification is. But every school has a different process for it. And that's where our help comes into you if you need it. I tell you not to forget to apply for admission. I say that because we had a student a year ago who put ASU on her FAFSA, but she never applied there and then wondered in the summer why she wasn't hearing from them. Don't let that be you. It was a tragic case. It was too late for her to apply for the fall, so she had to go in the spring. Once you apply for admission and you get accepted, you're going to have access to a university or college email that's set up for you. And you're going to have a student portal, much like you have in high school, where you could go in and check, register for classes, look at your grades, look at your account balance, look at your financial aid. You have got to pay attention to those things because if the college needs any more information from you, they will ask there. For instance, if you're registering at Maricopa Community Colleges, they require you to turn in a student ID to prove that you are a resident of the state of Arizona and, more importantly, Maricopa County. So you get the least expensive tuition. If you don't turn that in, they're going to charge you out of state tuition and scare you to death until you do turn it in. So be sure that when they ask you for something on your to-do list, you actually do it. And the easiest way to keep up is to pay attention at least once a week to your portal and your emails. You are not going to get complete financial aid offers until typically in the spring before the fall enrollment. So you might apply to ASU in September, but all you're going to hear about from them is the scholarships that Bianca is going to be talking about that are awarded to you upon admission. You are not going to hear about the federal aid until the spring, but you will have a good idea from the submission of your FAFSA whether or not you're grant eligible. That's not going to change, but just don't expect a complete offer of financial aid until the spring. And then finally, when does the money come anyway? After the awards are made and the offers are made to you, the financial aid money itself, particularly federal money, does not flow from the federal government to the school until about 10 days before you start the fall semester. That's because the federal government doesn't want to let go of its money too early. So they wait until the school is sure you've registered for classes, you're on track to get started, and then they let the school draw the money from them, put it into your account, pay their costs, and then give you anything extra that is not due for direct school charges like tuition, fees, room, or board. And any questions about that? I think I'm done.
Yeah, one more question. You're not off the hook yet.
I don't plan to
This is an easy one, though. when is the deadline for FAFSA for the class of 2021? That was asked again by Shanti. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And there's actually one more question.
The class of 2021?
Yes.
That FAFSA is open right now. That's the 2021 FAFSA for fall 20 semester and spring 2021 semester. That FAFSA is available right now. And hopefully, if you've not completed it already, but you're looking at maybe attending in the spring because you graduate in December, then you could fill that FAFSA out right now. But if you are looking at next year, next fall of 21, spring of 22, boy, that sounds like years ahead. If you're looking at that FAFSA is not available until October, and it's the deadline for the FAFSA is all the way, like the 2021 FAFSA is available all the way through next June. The 21-22 FAFSA is available in October of 2020 and will go all the way through June of 2022. So it's really open for a 2-year period.
Okay, thank you. And I think that what she meant was the senior class of 2021. So
senior class, okay. I apologize. I was misunderstanding the question. That FAFSA would open October 2020, and it would be available through June 2022. But a student who would wait till June 2022 to do their FAFSA would not have gotten any financial aid for the 21-22 school year. So financial aid hinges on doing the FAFSAs within a reasonable time frame.
And as a follow-up,
Yes.
So the deadline for the FAFSA for the high school class of senior class of 2021 is June. Do any of the schools or scholarships have different deadlines that they want students to fill the FAFSA out?
They all do. This is where your homework as a high school senior gets very important. What's the deadline for admission? And there are internal deadlines for FAFSA, not government deadlines, but internal school deadlines, and you need to pay very close attention to them. Bianca is going to be talking to you about some institutional scholarships. For instance, Obama Scholars at ASU. Everyone's heard of it. Everyone wants it. If you want to be in line for the Obama Scholarship, you have to have your FAFSA submitted by January of 2021. 22, I'm sorry, 22. I lied. The dates are really complex here. As you can see, I've been doing this for 40 years and I can't get the dates right. So, no, am I right, Chris?
Right. Do you want to say that one more time?
Yeah.
For clarification?
No, I was definitely wrong. If you're applying for the FAFSA in October 2020 for the 21-22 school year, you have to have your FAFSA submitted to ASU by January of 2021.
Perfect. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So
I'm going to say that one more time because I definitely have been talking too long today. If you are going to ASU, and I'll use ASU, NAU, and U of A this year, if you plan to go to ASU, you want to apply for admissions and apply for your FAFSA before January of 2021. If you pick NAU, you need to have your FAFSA completed and your admissions completed by November 15th. That was this year. Why so early? I don't know. They just like to be first at NAU. And if you want to go to U of A, it's March of 2021. I like being last. Save the best for last, they say at U of A. So pay attention to the FAFSA internal deadline and the application deadline set by your schools. Particularly out-of-state schools will have even tighter deadlines. So that's why filling out your FAFSA early is much better than filling it out late. And I apologize for screwing up the years.
Well, you've also been presenting for 2 hours, so we give you a pass. Final question from Rachel. Does FAFSA give you money for each semester separately?
Yes. The FAFSA amounts are yearly amounts, but they are divided equally among the semesters or quarters that the school follows. So if you qualified, let's say for a $6,000 Pell Grant, that is a Pell Grant for both fall and spring semester. And that would be $3,000 in the fall and $3,000 in the spring is how it would be delivered. So that's a really important fact to know, because you're not going to have that $6,000 all up front to pay your fall semester's tuition, because half of it's going to be for spring. And now I've started talking with my hands. All right. I want to turn this over to someone who's an expert in institutional aid and scholarships, and that's my coworker, Bianca, who's going to talk to you about the more fun subject today, and that's all the non-federal stuff. Bianca, take it off. Over.
Hello. Thank you so much, Diana. That was really insightful information for everyone, especially since if you are moving into your senior year of high school. So just to get down to it, institutional aid is what it sounds like. It's aid coming from your institution, whether it's a community college or a university in or out of state. Things that it will include is funds upon admission. So a lot of things that Diana was mentioning prior to the slide was to make sure you have your FAFSA in time to be able to receive this institutional aid that comes in the form of a grant, and they style it in the form of a scholarship because it does have prerequisites that you need to meet criteria in order to maintain it. So, so it can be finance loan as well, like she mentioned. And then once institutional aid is renewable for subsequent years, but you must meet renewal criteria. So be sure if you meet it, and to make sure this kind of goes back to how much attention you're paying to your finances is every scholarship that you get, you do have a link that you can go through your student profile, and it shows you the requirements to meet the criteria, whether you need to maintain a 3.0 or above, whether you need to be still a full-time or you can move to a part-time student. So just making sure that all your things as a student is lined up to make sure you have your scholarship or just a grant for the next 4 years is really, really important. Because if you don't meet one of the main criteria, there is a possibility they can put you on probation, but that all depends on to the finance team at your school. So may include, like I said, GPA credits each semester, counseling and mentoring requirements, and progress check-in. Next slide. Awesome. So here are some great examples of institutional aid from in-state universities and community college. So like Diana mentioned, the ASU Obama Scholarship, and the majority of these scholarships are for first-time incoming high school students. So it does not necessarily apply to transfer students that I know of for the majority of the university. I'm not too sure about the honor scholarship because students that are entering will only be there for 2 years, and it does cover their tuition. But for the ASU Obama Scholarship are for students that do apply before January 1st of the upcoming FAFSA deadline. And this one initially covers your tuition, and it does give you perks. But like mentioned, you do have to keep a certain GPA and be enrolled full-time. And that is because, I know this because I am an Obama scholar, so I'm able to speak to it. The other ones do have their own bells and whistles that you as a student will need to keep an eye out for, especially if you're considering attending, for example, NAU. NAU's Lumberjack Scholarship is awarded to students that are incoming graduating seniors, incoming freshmen. And this is, you can't have a C on your transcript. So for any reason, if you do have a C in a class, I do know that you can make it up over the summer and get that credit changed or that letter grade changed to a B or an A, and you will be able to qualify for the NAU Lumberjack Scholarship. Just a situation that one of my friends went through, and their counselor was able to talk them through it. So this is the initial time to start seeing which schools offer which kind of services, and to see what you as a student can be responsible for this upcoming year, whether you're a junior, sophomore, senior, family member, just to aware your students that these great scholarship opportunities that do cover majority of your tuition with other perks exist. So scholarships, if we're going to break it down, it is in kind of 3 categories. We use this with our scholarship matrix, which is found on our webpage that we'll talk a little bit about later. But essentially, so if you are going to use the scholarship matrix, it's just to keep your scholarships that you are interested in. Well, I feel like I keep saying scholarships a lot. Organized in a fashion that will help you kind of reduce your time. So the first one is random selection or simple criteria. Don't confuse this with a sweepstake. This is just you're entering into a drawing, taking a simple quiz that you get a scholarship entry. By no means does this mean you should put your credit card, debit card information, social security number. Just make sure that you're not giving out that information if it is not a recognizable organization, or if it's not necessarily part of a full application that's a step-by-step process. Category 2, which is based on talents, abilities, academic and personal profiles, community service, interests, and background. Essentially, you're going to take all the highlight moments, your involvement from your 4 years of high school, and put it into effect, whether it is through a simple academic resume, a personal statement that they may ask you, or if you are an athlete and you are in track and field and there's a specific scholarship for you, you'll be able to qualify for that scholarship just because of your association to a club or an organization. So these are where these things come to play. As of right now, if a student isn't as necessarily involved, my biggest words of encouragement to you is just necessarily find one organization or a club at your school that you may be interested. Never really gave it a chance, and just start now. It's okay that if you haven't been doing it for 4 years, you can start your senior year and speak about your experience then. The last category is essay required with some portions of category 2. This is a tough one for a lot of people. If the people that are here were in Diana's last session, just know that we do help with constructive criticism at the College Depot with essays. But at the end of the day, it is the opportunity for you to express yourself as a student through writing. I feel that's the best form of communication we're offered through our education. And being able to put our high and our lows with a positive impact with demonstrating growth is essentially a best way to get someone to invest in you. So please don't steer away from the essay required scholarships, because who knows, you might have a knack for writing. Awesome. So here are some essay tips for category 3 scholarships. And just in general, when you're kind of moving towards the workforce, these are really great things to just keep in mind when you're writing your personal statement. And I say this because I am a 3rd year in university, moving into my last year, and these have become very, very, very helpful, So you're telling a story about yourself. Essentially, you become the narrator of your life, and you give yourself a minute to kind of step out of, your personality and really evaluate it and see kind of the perks and not the perks. And that's okay. So you have to be specific in the sense, if you are talking about a point in time, especially if they're talking about choose a time in your life where you experience pain, you got to make sure that you include that very clear and make it clear in your statement. Then again, use detailed anecdotes, examples, and stories. This can start off as a story. It can lead into a story. It can be a story altogether. Or you can start off with a quote, like we mostly have done in our English classes up to now. But be a little creative. Do your own little spin on it. Bring originality to it. So write several drafts and have others proofread it, or just simply read it. It can be someone who enjoys reading. It can be a neighbor. It can be us at the College Depot. But do not find it intimidating. It could be a little alarming at first to be vulnerable with your writing, because you do express yourself in a very personal way, but it allows you to really get that constructive criticism that, like, as if another person, the scholarship reader, is going to see and possibly gives us questions that you're probably not including in your writing that could make your writing stronger. So essentially that's what it is. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that you have the best result possible to send in. Okay, procrastination and not following the directions.
Bianca,
yes, please chip in.
So there is a question, and I didn't want to lose it before you moved on.
What's the question?
Oh, okay, so this might actually be going back a little bit. So with the Institutional Aid House Scholarship, can you stack other scholarships? I plan on going to ASU. That's Shanti again. So are other scholarships stackable?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing me back to that. Other institutional aid is stackable. So when you look at scholarships, It is just something me and Chris were talking about prior. Is imagine like a downward pyramid. You have the big ones, which is like nationwide scholarships, like the Coca-Cola Foundation, and then you have your statewide scholarships, which we're looking at more of like Arizona Community Foundation. Then we also have the College Depot resource because we do have a scholarship portal available for students. And then we have, the fine little corner of the pyramid, that ending, which is your university and colleges. So any college or university that you attempt to apply to and then get accepted, you do have access to their scholarship portals. So let's say you do get offered the Obama or you get offered the American grant. You can go on to your through your student portal and add up more scholarships to your funds. Essentially, if you do get a big scholarship, just note like those ones that I mentioned, the all institutional ones, there's a possibility that if the school themselves offer you aid, it's going to be fixed on how much more you have left to pay rather than giving you enough to have left over. So if you're looking for enough to have left over for books, materials, or any of that sorts, please look into your scholarship portals through your school, which it should be the initial start once you get admitted. So I hope that answered that question. Is there any other questions?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Keep them coming. So procrastination and not following directions. Don't wait to send in an essay that you want to be reviewed like 2 days before the submission deadline, simply because you're not going to get the feedback that one, you need, and two, you're not giving yourself enough room as a candidate to be competitive. Essentially, always try to send in your application a week or a couple days before the actual deadline, so you don't fall within the cracks. Controversial topics can be risky, example, political or religious viewpoints, unless they ask you directly to answer one of these questions. There's so many other things to talk about as a student. If you do have a strong belief that you have a very compelling essay that you can create, that's where you come to questions to us to help you avoid not offering a point that is very, that can be very contradicting in a sense to probably the funder that will be funding the scholarship. So relying on a thesaurus, it just goes back to being authentic. Be as authentic as you can be. At the end of the day, you are representing the best self of yourself, but that doesn't mean you need to sound like everyone else, which is my next bullet point. Essentially, try to express yourself in a way as if you were a part of an interview, but then again, don't draw so much attention off of yourself by bringing these huge words, ostentatious words to the table, because it will just kind of go over your entire story in general. And that kind of goes back to lying or embellishing the truth. And then pretending to be perfect, they don't necessarily want to see you're perfect. Like if you think about it, you're in a scenario, right? And then this is what goes to listing your accomplishments. So I feel like these two go hand in hand. So if you're pretending to be perfect, you kind of give this illusion that you're not necessarily looking for aid. But when you're listing your accomplishments, it's not saying that you aren't perfect, which some of us like to believe, but when you're listing your accomplishments, instead of trying to list them and say, I've been recognized for all these things, how about you talk about the time that you recognize you had that within you? So if you are a natural born leader and you have had accomplishments because of that, and you were able to go on and become a leader of National Honor Society, what put you in that position? Was it a conversation with a family member? Was it a moment you had to stand up for somebody? List your accomplishments or demonstrate your accomplishments through that channel in a way that you were put in an environment where you realized that you had this talent within yourself that led to an accomplishment. So those are just some kind of tips and tools and things to avoid. Recommendation. So this you will see in essentially the category 3. When we were talking about category 1, 2, and 3, letters of recommendation will come out in the end with the essays. Essentially, it's a part of the application process that gives an outside source the ability to talk about you as a student in a personal sense, but also in a sense to highlight your accomplishments, your involvement, and simply your growth as a student. If you have an educator in your school, whether it's an English teacher you've been taking and now she's part of a sponsor in your club, whether it's an administrator, whether it is your coach, anybody that has been a witness of your growth or has been a part of a moment in time where you really demonstrated some initiative or accomplishment, these are the people you want to ask for a letter of recommendation. That being said, these people are very, very busy. So make sure you at least ask 1 month before you need it, and set a deadline before the actual deadline. So if the deadline is May 29th, you kind of want to look at May 18th, maybe a little bit sooner, depending if you need to have them add in a couple things. Be polite and formal in the sense if you should always do it, consider talking to them ahead of time, but then send the official. This is one of the documents we use at College Depot that you can also, it's to your disposal. Send them in an email format. Thank you so much for accepting the letter of recommendation for me. Here's what, you know, I need from you, and tell them a deadline that you want it by. And then check in with the person 2 to 3 days ahead just to make sure that, because life happens, just to make sure that either they have started on it or they're going to start on it, and so on and so forth. And by the end of the cycle, thank your recommender. And if you do end up getting the scholarship, please follow back up with them, because I know they really do enjoy hearing your success story as well. And they know how great of a competitive student you are, so they will love to hear that news as well. Scholarship red flags. There is no such thing as a guaranteed result. That is true. As much as we see a scholarship and we fit every check of the box, there is no guarantee that we'll get the scholarship. It is a patience game, but nonetheless, it is something worth putting your time forward to. So no one can assure that you will receive a scholarship. If it's too good to be true, then it probably is, especially if you are, how would I say it? Especially if they're asking you for, you know, credit card, debit card information, and they guarantee that you'll get a $500 to $1,000 scholarship if you pay a $5 fee. That's a little too good to be true. So steer away from those. And I see that we just got a question for letters of rec. Correct? Chris?
Sorry, my mute was stuck. There's actually 2 questions. So Nicole asks, how many letters of recommendation should we have?
Okay, so I mean, for me personally, a good rule of thumb, I got 3 letters of recommendation when I was doing my scholarships. I got one from a teacher, one from a club, one of my club sponsors that I was in an outside track club, and then one of them I got from an administrator, which I was happily had the opportunity to get that letters of recommendation because I was just involved in things in school. So if you are going to get more than one, don't get them from the same, how can I say? If you want a variety of letters of recommendations are really good. It just shows how universal of a student you are. But if you are going to get, for example, a letter of recommendation that is asked to be signed and sealed, make sure you get a couple copies of those, especially for those big scholarships. So you won't have to keep asking and asking your recommender for another one and another one. But so have enough copies from one recommender to send out to a couple of scholarship sites. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then that's all with all your documents, your personal statements, your essays. Make sure you save those on a drive that you will have access to later, so you can just tweak here and there, especially if you're looking to apply to a couple of scholarships.
Okay, wonderful. And so follow-up question, and then we have one more question. Nicole asks, as a homeschool parent, is it appropriate for me to write a letter for my child?
Unfortunately, that is the one thing we tell students, that they can't really get a letter recommendation from their parents. Essentially, there isn't really, you know, the student is homeschooled. So I would recommend, as of right now, moving forward, if the student is involved in any services, any community service organization, any Boys and Girls Club, anything in that regard, to start looking into seeing those recommenders before you get a letter of recommendation from your parent. And that's just simply because it is, in a sense, biased, and they're just looking for an outside source, essentially. And if any of my advisors want to add into my coworkers into that one, please do. But that's just
no, I think that's fantastic.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Diana.
I would agree with you. Although in a homeschooling situation, you're both the parent and the teacher. So I don't think it's absolutely taboo to use it, but I agree with you, Bianca. If you can find other folks, whether it's someone you volunteer with, or a supervisor at work, someone in your church, that doesn't mean that you as a parent can't write the letter in your role as a teacher, but there might be seen an inherent bias there that none of us can avoid. So just be careful with it.
Yes, I agree. And then the last one, never pay for last couple too, is never pay for a scholarship search. There's a lot of resources that I'll kind of end on that note in the next slide that you can find that you don't have to pay. And essentially that is a scam. And then be careful in providing your social security number. It's not to say that it's uncommon that someone would ask for your social security number when you're applying for a scholarship. Just know that if you are, you're probably already on step 3 of the application process and not really on step 1. So that's kind of it for this slide. And general scholarship tips. So organize and reach. So consider creating a scholarship email. A lot of students don't know, but the scholarship, your social medias and anything that you have with your email is associated to that can be linked in Find. So essentially create an email address that is professional and simply just used for work or for school in this sense, just so you don't have to run into any issues. And apply for scholarship even if you are reaching to meet the exact criteria. So this sense is don't really necessarily cancel yourself out, even though if you're really, really close. Depending on what exactly criteria you're asking, whether it is a 3.0 GPA and you have a 2.9, I think you're pretty much in the in if you just have a very compelling other parts to your application. And these are things that we can discuss with students one-on-one when they're thinking about applying to a scholarship or they're trying to decide which ones to pay more attention to and prioritize. Make your scholarship search a part-time job. This one I can't advocate enough is a $400 award for 10-hour search. It's the equivalent to $40 per hour. So that's probably the best part-time paying job an undergrad student can get at the moment. And essentially, you're just speaking about yourself and you're just spreading your information in the sense that you're finding people to invest in you. So it's just advocating for yourself too. And just know that you are going to hear no, and you are going to hear we regret to inform you that you're not going to move forward with this application. I can say word for word, it has happened to me, but that shouldn't be an indicator for you not to keep trying, because at the end of the day, a no should motivate you, and a yes should just satisfy you to know that you are capable, and then just keep moving forward. Don't be afraid to use an essay template with your best thoughts, but be careful because you are tailoring your essay to your audience, and stay on topic to answer the question asked in your essay response. Essentially, always answer the prompt. We learn this English multiple times when we do our exams, when we do our PBAs. Just make sure you do answer your question as clear as possible with your own twist, of course. And so here's a College Depot scholarship page. On the top, you can see the link to the page. And then what you see on the right-hand corner, all these little boxes, that's essentially how our page looks like when you first enter it. So on the top, you will see View All Scholarships. At the moment, we do not have the most abundant list, and that's because we are going to get an update version for August. So please give us a little time, and we're excited to put that out there for the students. So when you do have the ability to customize your search in a sense, so you can view them on monthly deadlines, you can also view them by extracurricular activities. You can view all. For the students that are DACA and Dreamers, we have international eligibility tab for the scholarship as well, so that is available for you. All the other resources that we talked to you today about letters of recommendation, we also have 2 handouts, one on how to write essays in the sense of the do's and don'ts, and then the scholarship matrix organizer that I was talking about previous is also on that page on the left-hand side, right below these boxes. What you would also find on our page on the right-hand side is the second tier that I was talking about scholarship when you're thinking about national, state, and then local college university. So on the right-hand side, you'll find the second tier, which is state. There's a bunch of foundations and communities that you can, go on there and search and see what kind of resources are available to you. And right below that is databases aside from College Depot, which is QuestBridge, College Greenlight, Unigo, Moolah, Spot. Essentially, these are really, really great resources for DACA and Dreamers who are interested in finding external resources for funding their education. Those ones, you create basically a profile and they match you with scholarships. They generate scholarships that meet your requirements. And then the really cool thing about Unigo is that in the bottom left-hand corner, you have an estimate of total if you were to receive all the scholarships, how much you're banking at. So that's really, really cool. So those are other scholarship websites that we have at the depot available. So, and then for just to end on a really, really positive note, because I know a student did mention this, the Community Foundation funds in Arizona available there is like Phoenix Union Foundation scholarships for students that are graduating from the Phoenix Union, Arizona Community Foundation, and so on and so forth. So these are things we encourage students to set up a one-on-one appointment with us for, so we can be able to, so we're able to deliver this information directly and in a personalized manner, all depending on the student and their needs. Awesome. Thank you so much. And this all goes back to Diana to wrap up the rest of this presentation.
And Bianca, we did have one more question for you from Shanti. She just wanted to know, so she is a high school senior. She'll be going into her senior year, and she wanted to know how soon in advance, like, so to get her essay reviewed by a College Depot advisor, how soon in advance should she schedule an appointment?
Diana, do you want to actually answer this question since you are one of the essay reviewers?
Sure. My general preference is that the students email me the essay first. If you can give me, it wasn't due yesterday, and you can give me at least 24 to 48 hours, and that means you're going to get it back and you're going to do some revision. So you need to get it to me like at least a week out from your deadline for your own comfort level. But I will review anything you send me as quickly as I can. And if you tell me it's due tomorrow and you just found out about it today, I'm going to do everything I can to review it. You notice I said, send it to me first. Let me look at it. Let me give you some comments and some direction before we do an appointment. That is a personal preference. I am the primary essay reader, so this is the way I do the work. Others might feel differently, but I feel that if you're showing it to me and sitting across from me as I read it, I don't know who's going to be more nervous, you or me. So I would prefer to look at it totally objectively on the computer screen and give you some comments and feedback. And then if you say, I really want to talk to you because I really want to tell you that you're wrong, Diana, or I really don't understand what you said, I'm more than happy to schedule an appointment and we can work that out individually as little as 24 to 48 hours from now. I mean, it's really pretty wide open. The only thing I suggest is if you can send it to me ahead of time, it will make both of us feel better. And then secondly, if you can give me at least 24 hours to look at it, I truly appreciate that time. And if everyone takes me up on this offer, it might have to be 48 hours, but usually I'm loaded with essays that I can't get to yours.
Great. And then one more question from Ellen related to the scholarships matrix. Is this a tool to help us create a timeline for applying for scholarships?
Essentially, that's a really great way to put it because it is a tool for a timeline. Because when you do fill out this matrix, one of the categories is the date that it needs to be submitted and the deadline, essentially. So in a way, how Chris explained it prior is you are casting your net wide, bringing in all these scholarships that you're eligible to apply for, listing them and seeing which ones you're going to end up applying to. And remember the categories thing that we're talking about, random selection, the second one about abilities, and the third one about essays. On that same matrix, on the right-hand side, you're going to list what are the requirements for those, just to give you a better idea to see which ones are going to take more time and which ones are going to be very quick and short. So you can use it as a timeline when you are, organizing your scholarships. But essentially, it's a great place to put all of them ones that you are interested in applying to kind of scope out to see what are the requirements here and there.
And piggybacking on that, Bianca, it's really a great way to be accountable to self, because that way you can show yourself and show your parents that you're really working a part-time job, or show us at the College Depot that you're really taking this seriously. But I think Bianca and I have a caution about this scholarship matrix. It's great to write all this data down and track the timelines and follow the deadlines and things. But I encourage you, don't just give us a list, or don't just give yourself a list. You have to actually apply for the stuff. So if that's making a list of 5 at a time, and then you apply for those 5 and 5 more, compartmentalize as much as you need to, just start applying.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Looks like that's all the questions. So we'll turn this back over to you, Diana.
Thank you. I wanted to talk for a few moments about a little bit of information I gave to incoming college freshmen on Saturday when we had our College Palooza event. So if any of you happened to tune into that, this will be a refresher course on the true cost of college. Really, college can be categorized into 2 different expense costs: fixed costs and variable costs. The fixed costs are the things you don't have any control over. They are what they are. Basically, your tuition and fees that the college charges are not negotiable. They are set in stone. But you may be able to take advantage of something that few students think about, and that's flat rate tuition for full-time attendance up to a maximum number of credits. That means simply, if full-time is normally 12 credits, you're going to be charged exactly the same amount at ASU or another university, very likely, if you take 15 credits. So you could be saving yourself some time and money by taking more than the minimum full-time load each semester. You could be ensuring that you complete your program in the appropriate number of years you were expecting, and you're actually getting 3 credits extra for the price of 12 if you take 15 credits. Now, obviously, you may feel you can't take that many. You might feel like I can take 20 credits. My recommendation is if you think you can take 20, the college will probably tell you take 18, or they'll charge you extra for those. College doesn't want you to overload yourself beyond your capacity. So I have known students who could take 20 credits easily, but they usually had to have special permission to do so. I've also known students that have said, I only want to take 12 credits. And when they do that, what they're ensuring is they're getting the least amount of credits for their money, and they're taking 6 years rather than 4 years to complete their program. You also need to be aware of those hidden fees. Fees are all over the place in college accounts. They may charge you. I used to laugh and say my children were charged for walking across campus. There are fees involved if you are in a special honors program, you're taking a special course, perhaps a film studies or an art course that has supply charges associated with it, or you're in a cosmetology program in which you have to purchase a kit in order to learn to do your job in that program. So don't dismiss the fees because they do add up and you need to consider them. The variable costs, on the other hand, are the things that are within your control. You can change some of these things and save yourself some money. Room and board. As Bianca knows, and I would tell you from my own children and from my experience, you don't have to live in the most expensive housing that the campus offers to you. You don't even have to live in campus housing at all. So you could pick the least expensive dorm, so you live more like a student than a king or queen. And you perhaps could pick a lesser meal plan. What we found with most entering freshmen is you may think you need the most expensive meal plan because you plan on eating a lot and frequently, but you get to the end of the semester and you didn't use all of it or nearly all of it. So do consider, maybe I start out with a lesser meal plan, and if I'm starving, I will then get a more expensive one after that, or buy extra meal tickets or meal plans on your card. Books and supplies are another thing that you can change. You can, of course, vary the price of your technological equipment, your laptop, your printer. But most importantly, you may be able to adjust the cost of your books by simply staying away from the campus bookstore. They sell all kinds of wonderful things, t-shirts, makeup, room decor. But if you buy your books from Amazon or even rent them from an off-campus bookstore or from Amazon, you may find that you save yourself a lot of money for books that you never intended to keep in the first place. and you did not have to buy the on-campus bookstore. And my coworker doesn't like book charges either. Transportation, including parking fees. If you feel you have to have a car on campus, is there going to be a charge to park it there? If you go to Glendale Community College, you can park there for free. If you go to ASU and you park a car on campus, they're going to charge you for it, and chances are it's going to be miles away from your dorm. So be sure that if you can find alternate transportation, take public transportation, carpool, not have a car on campus, park your car off campus and take campus transportation in. You can save yourself anywhere from $250 to $1,250 a year. And then finally, personal expenses. Personal expenses, lamp for your dorm at a thrift store, or you can buy shampoo and detergent at the dollar store instead of at Target or even Nordstrom's. So if you can really decrease those costs, they are a large part of what the college charges. They put in your cost of education those variable costs as well as those fixed costs. And there is one of those categories, the variable, that you can make significant savings in. So don't forget about that. And then finally, how to cut the costs. I have some words for the whys, and I'm going to use an example for this. If you look at Arizona State University, and we use it as an option simply because it's a very popular choice here in Phoenix, ASU's cost of attendance per year this coming year is in excess of $30,000. But you should know that that is much more than tuition and fees. That is also an average room and board, personal and transportation expenses total. So I just told you, you can change some of those variable costs, but the college is going to try to offer you financial aid up to that $30,000 cost of attendance. So you want to have a cost that doesn't have federal student loans in it or doesn't have any student loans in it. You don't want to work. You can reduce or eliminate those loan awards or the working obligation by reducing your variable costs. And I told you how on the last slide. Adjust your housing arrangements and your meal costs. You could save a couple $1,000s if you do not live in the most expensive dorm or get the most expensive meal plan. Maybe that's not an option for you, but if it is, take a look at the savings you could have. If there's a fee to park on campus, try something else, because there's nothing that hurts more than paying $1,000 to park your car in a garage that is barely within walking distance of the dorm you live in. Consider alternate transportation arrangements. And finally, become a thrifty shopper. That may mean that you shop at Target instead of Nordstrom's. It may mean that you shop at the thrift store, the dollar store instead of Target. But whatever your standard is right now, consider how important it is to you to maintain that standard, or how willing you are to live as a true student. And Bianca, I know you and I have both been through this discussion a lot, so it can be very important. And it can save you a ton of money and the need to take out a student loan. And we are at the point now where we have questions, either for Bianca on the excellent presentation on scholarships, where we told you a little bit of how to do it wisely and how to make it a big part of your life, but not all of your life, and about federal aid, which is just full of all kinds of rules and regulations that you may have questions about. So we will open it up for any questions you have, and I'll turn it then back to Chris. Questions?
Okay, thank you. We just have one question, and I guess I could even answer this, and this helps to transition us out of here. But Ellen wants to know if Saturday's College Palooza transcript or recording is available.
It is.
And yeah, I guess I could go ahead and answer that. I'll even put it in the link in the chat. But yes, the recording for College Palooza is available, and you can view that. It's on YouTube. Make sure to like and share. And also this session as well has been recorded, so we're going to send it out, and so that you can view and review, and then of course share. And I think, I can't tell if it went or not, but we also have a quick little survey. So we thank everybody for sticking with us for this longer presentation. We really appreciate your participation, and all of the rich questions that made this as dynamic as it can be, as we're spread out throughout the Valley. So thank you for that. It really helped to make this a unique experience for those who were able to participate live. And of course, it is recorded. So we're always trying to improve. We're always trying to improve our service, our presentations, like everything that we do in order to serve you, our students and parents and community members out there. So I believe that I shared a link, hopefully not more than once, for a quick little survey. If you could take a few minutes just to fill it out, it really does help us your responses really help us to know how we did and how we can improve, what you liked, so that we can continue doing that or build on it further. So please take a few minutes. It is truly invaluable to us as a center. And I'm going to, just as we wrap up, let me switch to a different PowerPoint so I can cover a couple quick little topics, and then I will get everybody out of here. So if you can bear with me for a second.
Sure, and thanks, Chris. While you're doing that, I just wanted to tell everyone, this is by far the most technical of our presentations. And we had to work really fast, even in an hour and a half, to share all that we had with you. Because we do financial aid work as one of our primary business services, please reach out to us and ask any remaining questions or your need for an appointment, because Bianca, Chris, I, and the rest of the College Depot staff are there for you.
Thank you. So yeah, I just shared the link. I just shared the link for the YouTube video for College Palooza. Let me come back to PowerPoint. Okay. So yeah, we're done. So just to review, College Depot, we're a free full-service college access center. This has probably been hammered on like multiple times, so I won't continue to take your time by mentioning it. But if you hit that tiny.cc/C D request, if you type that in, it'll take you to a quick little form. It takes like 30 seconds to a minute, depending on how fast you type. Just put your information in and we'll reach out to you to set up an appointment. You can get a one-on-one appointment with any of our advisors, including the amazing Bianca and Diana, who tarried with us today in the content that they delivered. And so just anything that you need, scholarships or otherwise, we're able to help you with. Also, we have more sessions coming up. So we just wrapped up, scholarships and financial aid. That's today. We also have 2 sessions in Spanish for parents, Becas y Ayuda Financiera and Caminemos a la Escuela. Becas y Ayuda Financiera, that's coming up tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And then on Saturday, you can see we have a whole host of presentations. And yeah, SA Essentials, if you missed it, you can see it again on Saturday. And then this session again, of course, will be offered. We have another one. I'm not sure why it's on there, Test Prep Essentials. That's to help you with, especially for the seniors out here, you know, ACT or SAT. We're not sure what the fate of that's going to be in the you know, the uncertainty of the upcoming school year, but that is an essential part of scholarships. So Test Prep Essentials helps you with tips, tricks, guides, so that you can be successful in those tests. If you go to tiny.cc/C events, you can see the list for all of them and also register. So thank you. We really appreciate everybody. Even though we did have a couple little glitches, we really appreciate your patience with us, your contribution. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Bianca, for your amazing presentations that you were able to put together and share with our community. We really wouldn't be the same without you on our team. So thank you for making this a special session. And we hope to see everybody virtually in the future. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Bye-bye. As usual. No.